Assalamu alaikum.
Why do we have
I would like
cracks
to
in
talk
slabs
about
Assalamu
when we
alaikum.
have hot weather?
Again, talking about hot weather concreting, we find out that in hot weather uh, we have the tendency of getting more cracks in the concrete, especially the slabs. Anything that is open to the hot weather. Why is that happening? This is happening because when we mix the concrete mix, we have water inside, 0.45 or something like this. And the amount of water that is required for hydration is, let's say, zero point 0.3. So there is between zero point 0.3 and 0.45, there's 0.15 that is excess water. Then this excess water will start to bleed. So it will go down from the lower portion of the concrete up to the surface, and it will evaporate. So what will be a perfect condition? A perfect condition is when the water coming up, the bleeding water and the evaporation water are the same magnitude. If they are the same magnitude, the amount of water inside the concrete at this depth is the same. But sometimes what happens is that the bleeding water is slower than the evaporation water. So the top portion of the concrete will have much less water even than the required water for hydration. And that is when we get problems. We get a top surface which is not well hydrated. Actually, you can sometimes break it in a small hammer or something like this. So taking care of evaporation is very important, but also thinking of bleeding is very important. So how much bleeding we get, sometimes in high temperature, more bleeding is better than less bleeding. So how can we solve those problems? We can solve those problems by first reducing evaporation. Now, many people will say, how can I reduce evaporation? You can reduce evaporation very easily. For example, you can shade the concrete so that no direct sun will come to it. You can have sprinkler systems that make moist air, humidity around the area. You can cover it with plastic. You can put on it as quickly as possible after it is hardened a top layer of sand and put on it some water. You can put on it some cloth and put on it some water. So there are so many different measures that you can do. You can actually also spray membranes, waterproofing membranes. They are called waterproofing because they are proofing the vapor. They are reducing the vapor of the water outside. So the idea is the waterproofers will make a surface above the water that is tightly fit together, which will stop the water from evaporating very fast. So an excellent condition is when bleeding in the concrete, which must happen, usually happens, okay, is equal to the evaporation rate, or a little bit more than the evaporation rate. So if you see, for example, water on the surface, then that will tell you either that the bleeding is very high or that the water content is very high in the mix. If you see the surface very dry, then it's telling you that the evaporation is higher than the. Now sometimes I saw some roof slabs where I will see a crack and I will put, for example, my keys, and the key will go all the way into the crack. So I've already have a big crack where I put the key inside. And what many cases happen is that what people do is doing some more troweling, and when they do troweling, what they are doing is they are putting the very fine material into that crack, and it would look to us as if the crack is closed, but actually we have created a weak joint there. And I don't know if you all know that concrete is very strong, but steel tends to rust if the moisture come in contact with the steel. And if we keep that small crack, which is not good quality, then the moisture will go through it and will cause the steel to corrode and cause problems in the roof. So hot weather concreting requires a number of different steps that you have to take care for, but they are all doable and will eventually hopefully give you high quality concrete.